Player 4 Podcast's first t-shirt is now on sale at tpublic.com. Ever wonder what it takes to make a good podcast? We've already done the math for you and put it on a t-shirt. Visit our storefront at tpublic.com/user/P4podcast and get yours today. That's tpublic.com/user/P4podcast.
This is the Player 4 Podcast. Join us each week as we talk about video games, entertainment, and pop culture, and bring in guests from the Rooster Teeth community. Player 4 has entered the game.
In a world divided by podcasts, one podcast is the Player 4 Podcast. I think I'm done with that.
In a world divided by podcasts, one podcast is the Player 4 Podcast.
No way!
Friday, let's get right into it.
Nailed it!
You went
Hello.
Canadian.
I am Tristan, a.k.a. Shagrazir on the Rooster Teeth website.
And I am Malachi, a.k.a. Sukikiba.
He said "and" again. I guess we're
I
done.
know.
I did? Oh, God.
And I'm Joseph, a.k.a. J. Dunlap.
Weakest entry ever. And we have two guests with us today. Guys, we brought on Andres and Deco, the creators of the Sleeping Lions comic book, to come and tell us about their comic book.
Yeah.
We're doing that.
So that's the thing that we're doing.
Say hello.
Great
Get to the
intro,
thing.
guys.
Great intro.
So I'm Escalante on pretty much everywhere. You know what I found out? Just a little fun side fact. If you go to Google and type in Escalante, I'm like the first page of results.
The whole page.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Wait,
do that
wait,
with One Blue Wolf, but there's a lot more.
Oh yeah, I bet there is. Are you kidding me?
I thought there was only one.
We're comparing web page size now.
I'm pretty much One Blue Wolf everywhere, inside and out.
Oh yeah, ladies
Welcome.
and men. Don't scream.
No.
Tristan is having so much trouble.
I am. Alright, so today on the Player 4 Podcast, we have our two guests from the Sleeping Lions comic. We wanted to talk with them about their project, which they've been trying to fundraise for, and want to put out a comic. But first, we'll talk about Red vs. Blue. Let's relive vicariously.
It went robot.
Alright, I'm just going to talk until you tell me it's not roboting anymore.
Here's the... Yep.
It's still roboting?
Yep. Okay, so for today's discussion, we are going to start with Living Vicariously through me. And then we are going to talk about Sleeping Lions with Escalante and Deco.
So, what are we reliving, Malachi? Tell us what you watched this week.
The season 6 of Red vs. Blue.
What was the nickname for that season?
Recollection? No, wait.
No, it's all of them.
No, I forget. I see it on the title.
Wasn't it?
Relocation? I think that one is...
No.
I think that one's Recollection. The next one is Relocation, and the last one is...
Yeah, because it had all the narration by the director.
I'm drawing blanks. I can't help you.
Help us, save us.
So it starts off with
Reconstruction.
Reconstruction, you said, Tristan?
Yes, it's Reconstruction.
Man, Tristan went robot on us.
Stop putting your Wi-Fi through a microwave.
We started off with the beginning of the season being discussing the crash around the ship that crashed in this one area, and it looks like it was from Reach, the modeling for the game, because it had in Halo Reach is when they started allowing the switching of helmets, right? The really crazy designs.
I think so.
Because there's
in Halo 3, didn't you unlock helmets?
I'm talking like crazy. Like there was the one for one character that was literally his whole head was a visor.
Yes, you're talking about the meta, and
Yes.
that was, I believe, a Halo 3 helmet.
The EVA helmet.
Oh, okay. So it's Halo 3 modeling then. So we start off with them finding a guy named Walter, and he gets in and he's talking to Command. He was asked to describe the situation, what happened after the ship crashed, and the Blues going crazy, blowing up their comms, shutting everything off, and ended up all killing each other. They all just were dead. And then you got to meet Washington, who is a freelancer, and he is to go figure out what's going on. And that was the start of the season. So, yep. And then we went through him finding the group that has been divided up now. Everyone was sent to different locations.
That actually is probably my favorite part of the season, is when they're just going place to place trying to get the team back together, especially the part with Caboose.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really liked when you find out that Rick has been promoted.
Yep, to Sergeant.
Tristan sounds like an electric guitar.
Where's your commanding officer? He's right over there. Is he behind Griff? No, he is Griff. Wait, is your commanding officer invisible? Sarge couldn't come to the realization that Griff was a sergeant. My actually favorite thing out of that season was the comment when they were going after... There was this express speaking for... I forget her name, but she had Delta in her. The program Delta. Dakota? No.
Was she purple?
The only two people really were off yeah.
Yeah, everybody understood that.
So, yeah, when Caboose was supposed to, like, help her and stop her from leaving, and he shoots her, and he's like, I did it. And Washington ended up shooting her and destroying her body. He's like, I already contacted command and told them that Caboose did it. They said it was really easy. All I had to do was hit the shortcut button to report that he killed someone. Oh yeah, Control F-U.
Didn't they have him, like, locked up, and the guy they sent to go get Caboose was deathly scared to go get him? And he comes out, and they're like, what happened to the guy that went to get you?
No, it wasn't even that. You heard the shot in there. You heard the shot. It's like, ah! And he walks out. He's like, where's Joanna? But it's actually supposed to be Jean. And Caboose comes out. He says, he let me out, and then he ended up somehow shooting himself in the back. We've come to the conclusion it's not my fault.
So who's the next person they go to get?
First was Caboose, yeah, and then next was Church was the next one that's where you first get to see the meta.
God, it sounds like so much. I should watch these.
It is so much. There's actually what I've noticed in the series too, since before was all just shenanigans. The first couple scenes were just complete shenanigans. And now it's actually they're really dedicating to figuring out a story and having something go on a path. And, like, there's so much more detail and a lot more explaining, a lot more, like, mystery and poking around and finding out all these interesting things.
That sounds like the equivalent of, like, whenever I first came to Deco with the idea for a comic, and now.
It sounds to me like a role-playing group. They start off, I want to kill a hobo, which a lot of people seem to want to do. And then towards the end of the story, it's like, and then the senator wants you to go assassinate the king and things like that.
Yeah, it has more of a structured, more serious tone to it.
So who all did they go to get? Like, what was the team that they went to assemble so they could go and achieve their goal?
Well, it was just those two, and then they went to try to find out where he went after they dealt with Dakota. And then, because they went to the previous base where they found Andy, because he had to recharge his suit because of all the AIs in his head. And that's where they end up meeting the Reds, because the Reds got led there by Meta. And that led for all them to work together to go to the Freelancer Command Center.
Okay, yeah, I remember the Freelancer Command Center. What was the thing that Sarge did while they were there? What did he tell Simmons to do at the Command Center?
To delete all the blues.
It's interesting how little that played into the story afterward. That was an intense part of the story because they were stuck in the headquarters and they were beset upon. Who was attacking them at that point?
Meta, well, actually, while they were being attacked while he was on the computer was the Freelancers, because they were going after, it's Alpha, Beta, Gamma, the one that was in Washington. What was his unit called again? I'm never good
Washington,
with those.
He's the guy that's kind of working with them right now?
Yes.
Okay.
It was Escalante? No.
Escalante.
No,
It's like,
Escalante,
what?
yes.
I'm in this?
Epsilon.
Yeah.
So that's what they were going there for. Well, they were talking about the Alpha program, and that's what they were going to the command center for, but Washington was after Epsilon because of the memories. So the only really key point that for deleting the Blues data was that they couldn't look up Church's information about him because Washington was claiming that he was the Alpha program.
So that's all the way back in season 6? Wow. I didn't realize it was all the way back in that season.
They say that all the AIs are modeled after someone, and the director of the freelancing group is Church.
Yes, okay. I didn't realize that was all the way back then. I thought that happened later. So that's an interesting point in the story. And you brought up the point that the early seasons were a lot of shenanigan type stories and just messing around and Blood Gulch and so forth. So then they introduced the idea in season 6 of the different AIs. Like they kind of were exploring in the retconning of season 5 with like Gary becoming Gamma. And they brought up the idea in season 6 of the Alpha. So then we find out Church is the Alpha.
Wait, Gary becoming Gamma? They didn't say anything about that.
Yeah, they did. At the very end of season 5, Church got Gamma to reveal that he'd lied about the prophecy. Because he goes up to Gary and he says something about, can AI lie? And he says no. And he said, can you program yourself to lie? And then he pauses and he goes, no. And then that's when he realizes that he's actually Gamma, working for Wyoming.
Sorry, you said Gary. I was thinking Andy for some reason.
That's it. They can if they are programmed to lie. Thanks, Tristan, typing. Were you programmed to lie? And he goes, no.
No.
So they introduced that idea in season 5, and then in season 6, they talk about the Alpha, and then finally they reveal that Church is the Alpha. So then we finally get this idea of why Church is the ghost, which we've been talking about over the past, month and a half now? Just as we've been doing Reliving, and I had my theory about the AI and that kind of thing. The whole ghost thing, they do kind of retcon a way to explain it away. So it is interesting that it's season 6 when that starts, because then we start to break away from the original Blood Gulch shenanigans type stories. Overall, what did you think of season 6? What was your impression of it after you finished watching it?
A lot of interesting little twists and stuff. A lot of new stuff. It's more of a serious watch than shenanigans versus the previous seasons. So it was enjoyable. It was interesting to see what they utilized from the previous seasons to actually make a solid story with it. Overall, not bad. I liked it. It had its funny one-liners in there, like the little jokes here and there, which were really good. And like where the season ended, I'll mention that now. Tristan just posted what Church said toward the end. They were trying to stop Meta by setting off the EMP of the building. No, I don't mean EMP. It said EMP. That was a big juggle in the thing. But so at the very end, they explode the EMP, and that's the last we see of it. Everything. Well, actually, no, I lied. The Reds talking, Griff, Simmons, and Sarge are all talking about their new commander. So that was where it ended, was the EMP going off, and then the Reds there was the end of the season.
It's interesting. I don't remember an awful lot from that part of Red vs. Blue. Might be that I only really watched it once. So maybe I need to go back and watch those as well. They didn't leave that much of an impression on me until they started to pick up with like Monty's animations. Then they got to the stuff with the freelancer training and stuff like that. That's actually the stuff I remember better than season 6, 7, 8. They didn't leave that much of an impression on me. So maybe that's just my fault for it being so long ago that I need to go back and watch that. And then Andres can do it as well. So next time we have Andres on, he can be like, yeah, yo, I watched the thing, guys. Eh?
No, I'm totally not going to be busy writing a comic book.
No, because you said you were done.
No, we're never done. Fuck,
Man. We've got
6 issues to do, and then we've got a shitload of volumes to do after that.
So we could talk about that, I think. I think we're done with Reliving Vicariously. So now, let's get to the part where we brought on Pedro, Andres, Escalante, Tomas, that's the part I remember of your name, Escalante, to talk about, with his artist Deco Wilson, the comic book that they're working on. So, for those who haven't been paying attention, what is the name of your comic book?
The name of the comic book is called Sleeping Lions.
Yeah, yes it is. One thing, I'm not his artist.
I was gonna say, I was like, he's not my artist.
He is my
You're
right.
collectively the artist of the comic book, I'm sorry.
Because when you said it, I was just like, oh, I don't know if he's my artist. He's an artist.
Uh-oh, sounds possessive.
But you're his writer.
Okay, that one's true. Listen, here's how you fix this. He's my boy. I'm his boy.
Yeah, well, boys.
Oh, my boy, you're my boy, Blue Wolf. Okay, tell me about Sleeping Lions. I want to know whether you have an elevator pitch that you can give us so we can tell people what the story of this thing is before they make their decision whether they want to back you on Indiegogo.com.
I do have an elevator pitch. I wrote it a little while ago because someone suggested I should. Not going to name names, right, Joseph?
Correct.
All right, so let me hit you with a pitch. All right. It's the story of a rookie hero named Sentry who thrusts himself into a war for his city but doesn't understand the consequences of his actions. In this game of giants, he's a small player and doesn't know what evil he's welcomed into his life. The Battle of Empire City has started, and Sentry did not come ready to play. He will meet 3 individuals, some friends, some foe. The lioness will try to train him. The wolf will fight to stop him. The Roman will kill him. No matter what happens, Sentry will fight to protect his city.
Do we get to know what you mean by he enters in the battle? Did he start the whole thing, or did he just get involved in something he didn't realize was bigger than he anticipated?
Oh, you're asking the right questions, my man.
Okay, do I get an answer?
I mean, that, without giving away too much, I mean, in the comic, everything will be explained.
Okay, so all we know is he is in over his head, so he's got someone who wants to help him, someone who wants to stop him, and someone who wants to kill him. He's
only been I guess a vigilante, so to speak, for about 4 years. And in those 4 years, he's been, learning new things and trying to figure things out. This isn't exactly like the very beginning of his experience, being a vigilante. He does not rescue cat from trees, but a cat might rescue him one day. No. It's just, it's a really interesting story. It's something that Deco and I had talked about a year ago. And I was going through some really tough times. And Deco, we both have lives that are really hectic and crazy, and everybody goes through, really tough times. And Deco came to me and he was like, dude, let's just do this. This is going to help the both of us. We're going to be able to, release our stress, our anxiety, our whatever, and write and create this world and these heroes and villains and all this other stuff. And whenever Deco came to me, he was like, we need to start the Indiegogo, we need to get going, we need to hit the ground running. And I was nervous. And I remember Deco being like, hey, listen, I'm gonna give you some advice. Don't be a bitch.
Like you said, the story came from hardship, and it was born from hardship, and it was motivated by hardship, and now we're nearly there. And it's really saved our lives.
The ship is sailing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really cool thing because I get to see all the art that all the art that Deco's drawn for this comic, and it's outstanding to me. And like I feed this boy so many compliments. He might as well be like a chubby Snorlax.
My question is, from your pitch, I wasn't quite sure what kind of setting are we looking at for this?
So the setting is like a modern day metropolis.
Okay.
It's not set in our reality. We wanted it to be set in completely its own universe, and I don't want to, pull too many like real experiences in our lives or real people into this. I mean, we have a few people that we care about that we want, to be part of the comics.
Yeah.
Because they're the inspirations for certain heroes, certain villains, certain things like that. But it's based essentially like in a modern day metropolis, and the name of the city is Empire City. It's got a long history of heroes, actually, and one of the most prominent features of the city is the city's lighthouse.
Yes.
Okay.
I have to be careful not to kill people in the comics because I get nervous about stuff like that, and I'm like, man, if I kill them in the comics and they die the next day, I'm going to feel real bad.
I recall this conversation.
Yep.
Don't be a bitch.
My other question would be, for the setting and everything, you just now said had a history of city of heroes. Is this, he said, to protect the city? Is it always just bad guys in the city, or is there just a big conflict that has started up?
So right now, in the setting of Empire City, there's thugs that, peddle drugs to children. There's pimps, there's prostitutes. There's a deeper evil that is controlling all, the bad things that happen in Empire City, but no one can really pinpoint where it's happening or where it's coming from.
So it's something that's always been around. It's not
Correct.
Like all of a sudden this big thing is happening and he's jumping into it.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
It's more like an opportunity that just so happens to hit him right in the face.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
Sentry, our main hero, decides, you know what? I think it's time that I actually try and change something.
I have some questions.
Go ahead.
So I want to give some focus to Deco, but we're talking about the story. So my first question is regarding the story. And I'm going to assume that Deco has had a hand in the story, so I'm not saying he's not allowed to answer. So what I wanted to know is regarding the story, what is your inspiration for the story? Now, it could be real-life events, like you said, but I also want to know, what is your comic book inspiration? Not what inspires you, but what was an inspiration you drew from for this world and story?
Kevin Smith.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that Deco and I both, from the very get-go, we were just like, Kevin Smith is my hero. Kevin Smith is either Deco's hero or one of Deco's heroes.
It's my Jesus.
Yeah, it's Deco's Jesus. So, like, we essentially, Deco and I read a lot of comics, we're both nerds, and we watch a lot of Kevin Smith films, and we listen to his podcast and watch his shows and everything. And yeah, pretty much. And, we drew a lot of inspiration from him. As far as the writing aspect, I drew a lot of inspiration from 3 different individuals. One of them is obviously Kevin Smith. The other one is Bernie Burns. I love his writing style. I think he's just very genius whenever it comes to his writing for his shows. And Claudio Sanchez, who's the lead singer of Coheed and Cambria. He wrote his own comic series that goes together with the albums that they release. And I thought that was brilliant, and he pushes boundaries in his comics. There are things that people don't expect to see in comics, and he's like, you know what? Life is real, and it happens, and it sucks sometimes, but this is what it is.
I actually didn't know they made a comic.
Yeah, it's called The Amory Wars. It's an entire series of comics. I definitely recommend it.
Great to those.
Yeah, they're freaking awesome, and they're like deep, man. Like even in the first few minutes, you're just like, oh wow, that's the tone that they're gonna go with this comic. I gotta keep reading.
So I want that type of reaction with ours.
Yeah, I just like I want people. I've always really felt that happiness is a great emotion for people to feel, and like it's something that people like.
But I would agree with that.
Yeah. But I think that sorrow and misery affect people more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you think about it, though, every time you have sorrow, misery, it makes you see the happiness that's also there.
Exactly. I mean, it's very much so. The white drop of happiness in a sea of black is the most visible thing.
And Tristan's just typed hope and the effect of losing it.
Exactly. I was reading something the other day that it was titled "Murder Your Darlings," and it was just basically saying like sometimes you just have to let characters that you've created go. They drew a lot of inspiration saying like Game of Thrones does it. Like George R. R. Martin, he loves his characters, but he understands that sometimes they just have to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I like the idea of you know what, this is a real comic. It's not something that like, oh, you get shot and then just like Superman always comes back. No, death can be permanent.
Yep.
Okay,
Death
so
should be permanent, I should say.
So I have a question for Deco specifically, although again Andres may have some input on this.
Of course, we'll.
So your main inspiration for the story and the setting was Kevin Smith, and for the reason for doing the project originally. I remember when you talked to Kevin Smith, Andres. But my question is, what was the inspiration for the art style, and how would you describe the art style?
At the beginning, it was going to be in color, but then we went for a reboot, and I went, let's do it in black and white, and it just came like a really deep noir style, and it was very cool with selective color. And basically, Sin City is something you can look at.
Oh, yeah, I like Sin City.
Mm.
Yeah, that's something that Deco told me. He was like, "Hey, I have an idea," and I was like, "Yeah, what do you think?" And he's like, "Black and white," and I was like, "Okay."
You were like, Aces, let's do this.
Yeah, I was just like, "F it, man, let's go for it." But no, he showed me some drawings that he had done that we had already seen previously with a lot of color and just different added effects, and he was like, what if this was black and white and I highlighted certain key colors? And I was like, oh man, and it looked amazing, and I thought it was great, and it looks so cool. And like, we've been working on the comic, and he's been drawing it, and I've been watching as he's drawing, and I'm just like, I want to show this to people already.
Yeah.
Actually, that's actually a great way to do it, because if you think it will help set your tone for the whole comic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is the art style itself, very noir is what you said. Describe the setting overall to someone who's interested in reading the comic. What kind of world are we in?
Detroit, Gotham City.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's Empire City was once a very prosperous and
At the moment.
What's the phrase? It's a port city. It's right in the bay of this world that I've created.
Hence the lighthouse.
Exactly. Hence the lighthouse is being a very prominent piece of architecture that's in the city. But with that port city being a thing, it also breeds crime. The city has lost a lot of what it once was. There are apartment blocks that sit empty. There
Yeah.
are banks that have gone, bankrupt, and their vaults sit, open and empty with nothing inside. There are buildings that are dilapidated and look like they are going to fall down any second now. But there is also, very vibrant skyscrapers, and tall and strong-looking skyscrapers for companies that have sort of taken advantage of the fact that it is such a bad place that you can essentially make, a fortune there by treading on the people who live there.
Can you describe the personality of your protagonist? You've talked about him a little bit. What are his character traits? Is he naive, perhaps? Is he an idealist?
He's very... Okay, I was
It's
explaining
both
this to Deco. He's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
He thinks he's a know-it-all. He's a 24-year-old male. We don't want to give his name just yet because we're still trying to work some stuff out on that. But his heroic name is Sentry. But he thinks he knows a lot more than he actually does, and he knows how to fight. He's pretty powerful, but he doesn't think. He only acts, and it's definitely going to play into the comic, and people are going to realize wow, I mean, yeah, he can throw a punch, but he doesn't understand the consequences of the actions that he does. And I mean, he's a young man who thinks he's got life by the horns, when in reality, life has him pinned up against a wall.
So what about the character are you hoping that readers will associate with?
That young arrogance and the idea that, whenever we're young, we think, oh man, I know exactly what I'm doing, up until a certain point whenever you realize, oh crap, what do I do next? I've done so many things, and did I do the right thing? Am I a good person right now, or am I just, running through this life and doing what I think is right?
An analogy for leaving
There are
adolescence.
lessons to learn.
Exactly, yeah, it's just, there's lessons to learn about, life and the consequences that come from our actions. And not to say that all the consequences will be bad, but just things happen, you tilt one domino and the rest of them will fall, and the question is, which way will it fall?
So there's a little bit of Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility, but we're seeing a perspective of someone who perhaps made the wrong domino fall.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, so Tristan had typed a question that I probably should relay here for you, and the question is from someone who's not Tristan and I, who have already backed your comic. Maybe they want to know what this comic has to offer. The question is, why should I read your comic?
I think this is always a tough question, and I've had someone ask me this before, and it's not as easy as because it's awesome, and it's great, because, I mean, there's lots of comics out there that are awesome and great, but I think the biggest thing is that this one, people will relate to maybe, Sentry, people might relate to the Wolf, people might relate to the Lioness, some people might even relate to, the Roman, and they might say, wow, I understand that he's evil, but maybe he's the lesser of all evils, and maybe that's good, or who knows, and I just like the idea that people can read this and they can say, you know what, that was me. I was naive. I was young and dumb, or maybe that is me right now, and maybe I should take a second look and really evaluate things in my life.
Okay, so you just made me think of two other things. So, are you a fan of The Watchmen?
I am a fan of The Watchmen.
Because this sounds heavily influenced by Watchmen.
I love the writing from The Watchmen. Tristan said that also it sounds like Frank Miller's Batman, and I very much so agree with that.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's gritty, and
especially for the art style, that's what I'm going for.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I think it's just real. We don't delve too deep into I don't really know how to explain it, because there are things that can happen that we've talked about, but it's real. These are things that could happen to someone if they decided to go down this path. And if vigilantism was a, real prevalent thing in our society, then someone could say, oh man, do you remember those heroes back in the day whenever Empire City was first, going through all this crap? Man, what if we had those people back again?
Yeah.
And someone says, you know what? What if I do that? I got nothing to lose. Why not? When in reality, maybe you have a lot more to lose than you realize. And Sentry is, like I said, he's young and naive, and he doesn't understand that there is more to life than just beating up the next bad guy.
Okay, so my other question was, you were talking about how you might be able to associate with Sentry, but there might be another character you associate with. And we've talked about George R.R. Martin being an inspiration for you as a storyteller. Is there a chance that we would see the story from multiple points of view then, that maybe we start off at Sentry's point of view. At some point, maybe we see the point of view of someone else and we start to get in their head?
Absolutely. I mean, we have 6 comics that we've planned for this first volume. I don't know if we're going to stick with that. We might, have to change some things around. But as of right now, we have 6 that we've planned out, and not all of them are told from the perspective of the hero Sentry.
Oh, okay. Well, that's exciting.
Yep.
I'm just following your train of thought then. The question that's being asked by a comic book or a comic book character is really important. So when you have questions such as Batman's question or Superman's question, the overall question, like with Watchmen, the question becomes how far is too far for protecting your world, and should a superhero go unchecked? Should they have unlimited power? Yeah, who watches the Watchmen is the question. Thanks, Tristan. Mm-hmm. So, what is the question of your entire series?
Oh man, I guess if I had to really bring it on to a question is this worth it? There are things that will happen to Sentry, and he will change drastically in the span of these 6 comics. Not only as a hero, but as the character behind the mask. People will suffer for the things that he does, or will do, I should say. It's just a matter of, what is your life worth to you? It's sort of like, we were talking about domino effects earlier. If for whatever reason I cease to exist, gods of whatever religion or whatever creed, forbid, who does that affect? Who does that change? So it's the same story of, Sentry being a hero. Does it affect anyone that he knows, loves, and cares about? So it's a matter of worth, really. Is this worth it?
Does it even matter?
Exactly.
Nothing ever matters. He's just a poor boy from a poor family.
Yeah, from poor Empire City.
So I've enjoyed this talk. I'm looking forward to reading the comic. I'm looking forward to the journey. It seems like what you're wanting is to make a story that someone can emotionally invest in and maybe come out of it having learned something about themselves.
That's exactly what I hope for. I mean, Deco and I, we've talked about it, and this all really spans, and I'll come out and be honest about it. I dealt with a very heavy depression whenever I first started writing this comic, and we've reached out to an organization to try and put a page in the comic that is a direct connection to them, so that people understand, depression is something that is really terrible, and to an extent you kind of live with it for, your entire life, but there is a way to fight it and to, wake up every morning and say, no, I refuse to be the prisoner of my emotions. I am the warden. And Deco can attest to that.
Yeah, I'm still going for it now, and the comic's really helping. It keeps the drive to pull out 3 pages in a day.
Yeah, which is crazy. This guy pumps out pages like it's amazing. I can't write fast enough for this guy.
Well, I'm excited for you guys. I hope you get fully funded. If you don't get fully funded, will you still get the money? Will you still be able to make the comic?
Oh, hell yes.
How does Indiegogo do it?
So there's a way for you on Indiegogo to keep whatever funds you get.
Flexible funding.
Yeah, exactly. It's called flexible funding. And honestly, I told Deco from the beginning, listen, if this Indiegogo doesn't work, I'm going to find a way to make this comic real for us. I personally, I don't care if I make $1 million off of this, and I probably won't. I just kind of want to leave something behind in this world so that, people, if it affects one person and it changes who they are or it inspires them in some way, I'm happy with that. So for me, it's just like, I just want to make this happen. I want people to read it. Oh, Tristan, you're so sweet.
I'm like that too. But, I'm a starving artist, and it's my job.
Yeah.
And I need a new iPad pronto.
Really? Really, the Indiegogo is just to fund Deco to get, the new equipment that he needs?
Yeah.
Tristan and I had a conversation about that. We both agreed Deco deserves to get paid. He is an amazing artist who's been working so hard for so long. He even drew a picture of me one time. So, pay Deco. Come on, people. Let's go to Indiegogo. Let's go find Sleeping Lions. Let's pay Deco. Hashtag pay Deco. And let's get this thing funded so we can see more from these guys. Hashtag pay Deco.
Hashtag pay Deco. I'm down with that.
All right. So I think that's a great end to the podcast.
For a gritty with a punch through everything rookie hero, go check out your story.
Yeah. If you like to learn a little bit about who you are and maybe break some walls that you didn't realize you had set up for yourself, take a read. We have on the Indiegogo, there's 16 pages that you can see that are just what do we call
preview?
It? Yes, thank you. I can't words real good
Language is the worst.
Yeah.
But
Sound like Porky Pig, like Jeff. No,
We should
yeah.
definitely update that preview.
Yeah, we should definitely update the preview because some things have been altered on it. But man,
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Just we can't release anything until the Indiegogo is finished. But I promise, the day it's finished, if you got at least the digital version, we're sending those out as soon as it happens.
Cool.
El Pronto.
Yeah, and of course we have different backing options. I mean, like the $30 option gets you the special backer edition of the comic with the special cover that we've made for it, and you get the digital version as well, and you get a thank you, I believe, in the comic. I could be messing that up, but like if you're crazy and like Tristan, no, I'm joking. Tristan earlier was telling me that he's like, oh, I'll pay $500 and I'll be in the comic.
Please
So
do.
if you want to, if you
Please
want to
do.
invest $500 into this comic, we will add you to this universe.
I'm crazy.
And I will touch your face in the nicest way.
We offer T-shirts
What?
too. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah. We have T-shirts, which Deco is designing those, and they're going to be a limited edition. Like we're not going to sell them once we finish this campaign. Like once
It's
this
the
campaign's
same
done,
with the back covers.
yeah. Once the campaign's done, backer covers are stopped. The T-shirts are stopped as well. We're not going to sell them at any conventions or anything like that. We have T-shirts already, but I think it's unfair whenever people say, yeah, this is a backer exclusive, and then you find out a few months later that they're selling a couple, at a convention or something.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I get it, but come on.
Okay, so where can we get the T-shirt?
It's all through the Indiegogo. It's Indiegogo.com, and if you type in Sleeping Lions in the search bar, I think we're the first option now. You know what's funny is whenever we started the Indiegogo, we were the 4th most trending comic book on the website.
Really?
Like day one. Deco was like, what the hell? How did this happen?
Hype it.
So yeah. But no, everything is available through our Indiegogo. I mean, if anybody has any questions, like if you're like, hey, I want to assist in some way, or that isn't necessarily through Indiegogo, please send us a message. We have our emails on the website through the Indiegogo, and if there's anything that we need that you can help with, we'd love to have you join in.
What is the Twitter account for your little comic?
So we have a Twitter. We don't really post too much on it because what I want to post is more art, but we can't release too much of it. But we do have at Sleeping Lions CO.
Okay.
All right, go follow at Sleeping Lions CO. And when they finally release the first issue, we'll start to see some artwork. All right, guys, thanks for being on. We're going to have to call it a night.
Thanks for
for having
being on.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for having me and my boy on.
You're my boy, Blue Wolf.
I'm a boy. I'm the boy.
I'm a real boy.
Hashtag pay Deco.
Yeah, pay Deco.
Support your artist.
Hashtag new iPad.
All right, see you guys later, and hope to see you at RTX.
Adios.
Good night.
Laters.
Laters. And good night to all of our listeners out there. Until next time. You're my boy, Blue Wolf.
Bye. Oh, you did Robot.
It's Robot Tristan.
No, he didn't.
Oh, what?
At least for me. He didn't Robot.
I want to hear him.
It's long.
I am speaking.
He's not a robot.
I can speak.
It would have made a difference.
Oh, the horror.
Oh well. Thanks for being on, guys. It was awesome to have you. I'm sorry I couldn't speak, but I typed at you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, you had a lot of really good things to say, and I was just like, oh man.
I can kiss ass with the best of them.
Yeah. My Skype would do the swirly, and then it'd come back, and it'd be like a wall of text from Tristan.
Yeah, mine would do that too.
Really?
It's because we're connecting to England.
Yeah, England's the problem.
Wow, I didn't think
So
my
is-
internet was that good.